Really appreciate that. Hey, welcome to the May 10th regular meeting, City of Lincoln City Council, Redevelopment Successor Agency, and Public Financing Authority. I call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock on the dot. Roll call, please, Ms. Scanlon.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner.
Here.
Councilmember Carl Skint.
Here.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Here.
Councilmember Silhai.
Here.
And Mayor Andriotta.
Here, thank you. Item number 3, report from closed session. Our city attorney will give a report.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the City Council met in closed session on April 27th. And while there is no reportable action, there is an agenda item on calendar this evening. And then as far as tonight's closed session goes, there was no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, I have voluntold our wonderful Scott Boynton. He is going to lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us tonight. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Mayor, may I real quickly?
Yes, go right ahead.
Ms. Milenkopf, if possible, is it possible for us as a council to decide to waive our client attorney privilege for the purposes of the closed session that night that pertains to the item that's on our agenda later?
Yes, if the council wishes to take a vote, the council is the holder of the privilege. And so if you wish to make a motion to waive the privilege, that's within your purview.
I'd like to make a motion. We do that because I think that it's going to be much more transparent in our discussions with all of the public with why we called that closed session and what happened. So I would like to move that we waive our right to that. How would I phrase it?
I would suggest that you move to waive the confidentiality of your closed session for April 27th as it pertained to your discussion regarding anticipated litigation.
So moved as she said it. Do I have?
Second? Okay. Roll call, please, Ms. Scanlon.
Yes, Councilmember Silhai.
Yes.
Councilmember Carl Skint.
Yes.
Councilmember Joyner.
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
No.
And Mayor Silhai. I'm sorry, Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. All right, thank you for that, Councilmember Solhai. Item number 5, agenda modifications. Do we have any agenda modifications from the council, from staff? Oh, okay, good. Did you, oh, I'm sorry.
One item we're pulling, so.
Oh, well, we'll get that for consent. Yeah, thank you. All right. Item number 6, we don't have any presentations tonight. And so we're going to move to item number 7. This is public comment on non-agenda items. And so I want to remind you that if you have items to talk about that are not on the agenda, we want to hear from you. If you are here to talk about item 10A, please wait until we get to that item and then you can speak. So Ms. Scanlon, let's start on Zoom. Do we have any public comment from non-agendized items on Zoom?
Mayor, I don't see any hands raised. Looks like, do we have anybody downstairs that would like to make a public comment?
No, we do not.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody in the council chamber here that would like to make a public comment on something not on the agenda? Mr. Chapman, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Andriotta, council members, city staff, and all of those here, as well as those looking at home. My comment, I brought it up last time at the meeting regarding information on the city's website. I was very pleased to see that you could get to the ADA information. It is listed there. However, what I did notice is there's several items when that's pulled up that would literally read somebody to go off into the rabbit hole and not be able to get where they need to. As an example, on 3 different locations, when I pulled up the grievance procedure, I had prior employees of the city, Gary Eide, Mr. Leftwich, and now our current one, Will Foot. So I would be more than happy to work with the ADA coordinator or whatever on inputting the correct information onto the website. That way it's a little bit more streamlined and people won't be going this way and that way. It's kind of misleading as to where it is. And if I can help in any way, please let me know. I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I appreciate that. Are there any other comments in the chambers that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on really quickly, though. I wanted to ask, Ms. Scanlon, I know that you have your timer, but the timer's not working on the screen. Is that possible for them when we get to public comment, just so I can keep track of it as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, item number 8, consent. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or resident requests a specific item be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the remainder of the consent agenda. Staff has pulled item 8H, and in just a second, we're going to let Mr. Scully tell us why we're going to pull that to a later date. I am going to pull 8O because I just want Mr. Scully to explain this. It's not difficult. It just needs a little bit of context in case the public wanted to know. And so are there any other items that the city council would like to pull? No? Okay. Anybody from the public want to pull an item on the consent agenda? Mr. Chapman? Okay, 8C and 8D. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhide,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, let's start with 8H so Mr. Scully can explain why we pulled that to a later date.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So 8H is an item that's an acceptance of a project in the Meadowlands subdivision. It's the Meadowlands Water Quality Ponds Public Improvement Project. They have completed the work for that project. Unfortunately, what's occurred is there's been a lot of growth within the pond, and we need to have that cleared out so that the engineering team can inspect to make sure that the improvements are sufficient enough to accept. So we'd respectfully request that you remove it, and we'll get that done and then return it back for acceptance.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on that item? Public, council? No, okay, thank you, Mr. Scully, for that. I appreciate it. All right, we'll move back to 8C for Mr. Chapman. Adopt Resolution 2022-96, authorizing a budget augmentation of $12,762 from the unencumbered balance fund of 221 Streets to Foskett Regional Park ADA Parking Lot Project. Number 2, the city engineer to approve additional change orders in the amount of $10,046 over the original approval for unseen conditions encountered during construction, and accepting the Foskett Regional Park ADA Parking Lot Improvement CIP 451 as a complete, and authorize the city clerk to file the notice of completion with the County of Placer Recorder. Mr. Chapman, what was your question on this, sir?
2 comments, Mayor. One was, if you look at the 8C packet under environmental review, as you come down to the second paragraph, there's information there, and I'm pretty sure this is just clerical, but I needed to bring it forward. It states that the repairs associated with the police department ADA parking lot, which is actually an 8D.
Okay,
So I wanted to make sure that that got taken care of. And I think my thought is anyway, the same contractor did the work, and I'm thinking somebody just went through here and went, oh yeah, that's whatever. And the other one, particularly here with Foskett, it would have been helpful, and staff normally does this, but on this particular one, it was very good about saying in area 6 and area 5 and area 3, but there was no graph on there that would let anybody know unless they were familiar with the park as to what that actually, where it was. Doesn't have to be drawn out elaborately, but just something, a layover, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that would be a whole lot easier to do. So that's what I wanted to add to that.
okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And we can fix that typo if we need to. Okay. Any questions from the council on this? Any questions from the public on this or comments? Okay, can I have a motion to approve 8C, please?
Move approval with the recommended change.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhouette,
yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lortson,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, and then Mr. Chapman also requested that we pull 8D, adopt resolution 2022-97, accepting the police department ADA parking lot improvements, CIP 496 as complete, and authorize the city clerk to file the notice of completion with the County of Placer Recorder. Mr. Chapman?
Yes, again, Madam Mayor, council members, looking at that, again, in the section of that on page 2 of that packet, down at the bottom, it talks about fiscal impact, none. I'm pretty sure they had some sort of cost associated with leveling that up and doing what they needed to do. And I couldn't find that in the packet. Maybe I overlooked it or whatever, but if not, again, for the record, if that could be put in there where it needs to be, that would be terrific.
Sure. Mr. Scully, can you speak to why it says fiscal impact none, or just answer the question or say we'll put it in there or whatever
Yeah,
clarification?
we'll plug that in there.
Okay,
That's fine.
thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Okay, any public comment from the chambers on this item? Any questions or comment from the council? Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve this item.
Move approval of item 8D. Second.
Please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lortson,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhouette,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. And then I just asked Mr. Scully to just give us a little background on item 8O. And this is adopting a resolution 2022-111, hiring a new contract service, and it lists all the information. I don't think I need to read it all. I just wanted him to give the public some context for this.
Sure, happy to. So in October of last year, the city awarded a contract to Brightview Landscaping for almost all of the city in terms of parks, some facilities, and parkway strips, medians. And really since the beginning of the contract, but in earnest since the new year, we've noticed a number of deficiencies related to routine maintenance, keeping up with spraying for weeds, and a variety of other irrigation related issues, all things that would be commonly taken care of in the contract. Scott with Public Works has been managing that contract since it started and has exhausted pretty much all of our resources trying to work out contract compliance with Brightview, which has not been successful. In addition, we had requested credits be given for services not rendered, and that has generally been denied or has been very minimal. And so given that this is a significant contract, it's a $1.4 million yearly contract. After talking with Scott and the city attorney, we made the collective decision to issue a 30-day notice of termination to their contract and go to our second bidder that was part of that and discuss whether they'd be willing to take over at the same cost, which they've agreed to. They serve Rockland and Roseville too, Scott, or just Rockland? And we've checked with our colleagues over in those jurisdictions. They have very good reviews. They say they do an excellent job. And from staff's perspective, the bottom line here is that the community should not pay for services that are not being delivered. So that's why we're recommending this.
Okay, thank you. Does the council have any questions or comments? Any public comment from the chambers? Mr. Schreiber?
Yeah, good evening, Albert Schreiber, Moore Road. Since you pulled it, I thought I'd kind of talk to the city manager. The city has a lot of patterns that they do. Most of the time, they're not good. I would say this is one of them. Since you brought up Mr. Boynton, I'm sure he could fill you in. But with the landscape, it seems to be a pattern of get the lowest bid. They can't do the job. And then somebody has to come in, clean up their mess over and over. I know Morrison Landscape used to take care of part of what I drive by every day, and it is not being maintained at all like it was when Morrison was doing it. And I don't know what happened, why they didn't get part of the bid again. But sometimes the lowest bid is not the best bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber. Any other comments on that? Okay, I'd like to just make a comment in response to Mr. Schreiber that Mr. Scully wasn't here when the prior landscaping company was hired. The council agreed to that contract. I commend staff and Mr. Scully for noticing that they weren't doing the job that we were paying them for. And I'm really excited that he took the action to release the other company, hire a new one that we thought would do the job. And I'm looking forward to improvement in our landscaping services. So thank you.
We appreciate that. I just want to mention to that comment, Mr. Schreiber's not wrong. Frequently, the lowest bid is not the best bid, but unfortunately, in public works types projects, we're bound by public contract code, which means that we must take the lowest bidder. So our cure, at least while I'm here, will be to make sure that those folks are being held accountable, and we go to folks that are doing good work. So, but the concept is not incorrect. Sometimes that's true.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, any other comments on this item? Okay, if there's no further comments from the council, I'll take a motion to approve 8-0.
Approve item 8-0.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskin.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yes.
And Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Item number 9, public hearing. 9A, conduct public hearing and waive full reading and introduce by title only ordinance 1045B, adopting a written military equipment use policy and approving use, pursuit of funding for, and acquisition of military equipment described in the policy for 2022. So our Public Safety Chief, Matt Alves, will give a staff report.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here this evening. What I'll be speaking about is Ordinance 1045B requesting the purchase and use of military equipment. And give you some background. Assembly Bill 481 was signed by Governor Newsom on September 30, 2021, became effective January 1, 2022. The bill requires law enforcement agencies to obtain approval from the agency's governing body for purchasing, raising funds for, acquiring military equipment, using military equipment, or collaborating with other law enforcement agencies in the deployment or use of military equipment within the governing body's territorial jurisdiction. And therefore, the police department is required to seek council approval for the use and possession of this equipment in an open meeting through a public hearing. This bill allows the governing body to approve funding, acquisition, and use within its jurisdiction only, and only if it determines the military equipment meets specified standards. The ordinance subject to annual city council review to determine whether, based on annual military equipment report, the standards set forth in approving ordinance have been met. The council may renew the authorizing ordinance, disapprove the authorized ordinance, or exclude certain equipment where any standards may not have been met or require modifications to our policy. Finally, the bill requires publication of the military equipment use procedure and the annual military equipment reports on our website. The military equipment use procedure must be posted on the website at least 30 days prior to the public meeting regarding the equipment. In this case, we posted this, our policy and inventory on our website on March 29th, 2022. So well beyond the 30 days. And our findings with this, the mission of our department is to provide the highest quality of services that we can to the people that we serve. And the preservation and sustainability of public safety, officer safety, and civil rights is paramount. And we respond to a wide variety of calls, including potential life and death situation, and we operate sometimes in unpredictable and dynamic environments. And to respond to these situations, we need a variety of equipment and equipment options for an effective and safe resolution of these situations. And our inventory of military equipment and associated training gives us the confidence and capability to de-escalate a situation and potentially avoid life or death type endings to incidents. And what should be clear, and this is the unfortunate misnomer in this topic, is used in AB 481. The term military equipment is a very broad description. It's not limited to equipment that has been used by the military, that's been obtained by the military, or even considered military grade. Items deemed military equipment include, but are not limited to, unmanned aerial or ground vehicles, as in drones or bomb disposal robots, armored vehicles, command post vehicles, so RVs, battering rams, water cannons, pepper balls, beanbag launchers, rubber bullets, long-range acoustic devices, and commonly used long rifles. And the bill's stated intent is to increase transparency, accountability, and oversight surrounding the acquisition and use of military equipment by state and local law enforcement. And governing body approval under 481 must take the form of an ordinance adopting a publicly released written military equipment policy, which must address a number of specific topics, and I'll get into those. The equipment policy must address the type, quantity, capabilities, purposes, and authorized uses of each piece of equipment, the fiscal impacts of their acquisition and use, the legal and procedural rules governing their use, the training required by officers allowed to use the equipment, and mechanisms in place to ensure policy compliance, and the procedures which the public may use to submit complaints regarding its use. The governing body is required to consider the proposed equipment policy in open session and may approve the policy only if it makes the following findings. And the findings are: A, the military equipment is necessary because there is no reasonable alternative that can achieve the same objective of officer and civilian safety. The proposed military equipment use policy will safeguard the public's welfare, safety, civil rights, and civil liberties. If purchasing the equipment is reasonably cost effective compared to available alternatives that can achieve the same objective of officer and civilian safety. And prior military equipment use complied with the military equipment use policy that was in effect at the time, or if prior uses did not comply with the accompanying military equipment use policy, corrective action has been taken to remedy that. And staff believes that the requisite findings can be made that the Lincoln Police Department's use of military equipment as defined as the proposed policy complies with AB 481. And for law enforcement agencies that already have existing equipment, AB 481 requires agencies to seek the body approval no later than May 1st of 22. We had some timing issues and we were unable to make that May 1st deadline. So therefore, we've taken our equipment offline pending your approval this evening. So AB 481 requires agencies receive approval for use and report annually. So you will be receiving annual reports on our use and statistics regarding that, including any costs or ongoing costs that we incurred over the year. And that will be also posted on our website 30 days prior to that public meeting. And then we will have a public meeting to discuss all of this again every year. And AB 41 requires council approve not only current equipment use, but any future acquisition or use. As I said, the annual reports will address any additional purchases that we want to make. Proposed ordinance to seek approval for future use of all equipment, and will also detail the approved budget and purchasing procurement requirements. So as far as policy compliance, this action complies with the requirements of AB 41. And the state has declared this a matter of statewide concern and not a municipal affair. Fiscal impact, the state's declared no reimbursement is required by AB 481. Therefore, we are responsible for any costs associated with the use of this equipment. The fiscal 21-22 budget allocated $6,000 towards military equipment expenditures from the general fund. So in conclusion, and then I'll briefly address our inventory. Sergeant Scott Goen will be showing you the items that we have. We felt that that was important for you to actually see what it is we have. Everything has been rendered safe and inactive for this presentation here. So we recommend that you adopt ordinance 1045B, adopting the written military equipment use policy and approving the Lincoln Police Department's use, pursuit for funding for, and acquisition of the military equipment described in the policy in accordance with the approved budget and purchasing procurement requirements. So with that, we'll go ahead and go through our inventory of what we have. And we'll start with our beanbag launcher. So our beanbag launchers, we own 7 of these, and these are Remington 870 shotguns that are marked less lethal. They are clearly identified, so officers do not accidentally grab a real shotgun. Those shotguns are only loaded with beanbag rounds, and the beanbag rounds he'll show you next. What the beanbag rounds are is they're a 12 gauge shotgun shell that have it's more or less a canvas bag full of lead shot that is within that that shot shell with a low charge. It's a low speed but high impact device that's designed to be less lethal and not penetrate individuals. We have 100 rounds in service and 185 training rounds. Next up is our 40 millimeter launcher. We own 40 40-millimeter launchers, and these are less lethal devices. And they launch a 40-millimeter sponge round. The sponge round is it's a soft, literally a sponge round that's fired out of that shell. And it's a less lethal impact device. It's a great alternative for lethal force, and it's used to gain compliance from individuals. We own 35 sponge rounds. And next we have the pepper ball launcher. This is when we start getting into consumer grade equipment. The pepper ball launcher is essentially a paintball gun. It is really no different than a regular paintball gun that anybody can buy at a sporting goods store. However, the rounds that it uses are quite different than paintball rounds. We own 2 pepper ball launchers. The pepper ball projectiles are the same size as a paintball round, but they, instead of containing a liquefied paint, they contain a powdered, basically pepper spray. So the oleoresin capsaicin powder is what is inside those, and they're very effective for long range use. Our handheld pepper spray is only good for 10 feet or so. These things can reach out much, much farther than that with greater accuracy. So we have 2 types of pepper ball projectiles, and it's just the concentration of the powder and the strength of it. And 375 rounds of the lesser grade and 90 rounds of the higher grade projectiles. And then with 1,300 rounds of pepper ball training projectiles. Next up are riot control canisters / grenades. So these, we own 2 different types. We own CS gas and OC gas. So CS gas is what you commonly refer to as pepper spray, and OC is the CS is tear gas. The OC is essentially pepper spray. And we acquired those during the dramatic civil unrest of the past few years, just as a just-in-case device for us to have available in case it got very bad in the city. So we own 12 of each of those. And finally, are our UAVs, and we just have 1 for display here. We currently own 4 UAVs. They're all DJI Mavic series. We have 2 that have a really good zoom lens on them. That one there has a thermal lens, so it has a bit of a FLIR device. And then we have one that's was our first one. It's kind of a lower level, but it has a standard lens on it. So again, we have 4 of those, and those are used for search and rescue, taking crime scene photos, reconstructing accident scenes, tactical operations. They're just a really great tool that we have 5 or 6 pilots that are licensed through the FAA to utilize those pieces of equipment, and they're used very frequently. So that is the extent of our military equipment. As you can see, probably half of it is consumer grade, and each of you can go purchase those tonight if you wanted to. So the description of military equipment is very broad. It's a bit of a scary term, but we don't have anything that is what typically our United States military would be using. So with that, I welcome any questions that you may have or any further clarification that you'll have on this item.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. All right. I'll take questions or comments from the council. Mayor Pro Tem Joyner. No?
No, very thorough presentation. Thank you.
Councilmember Collar-Skint.
No question.
Okay. Councilmember Lauritsen.
Yeah, do these items have a shelf life?
They do. And the shelf life is listed in the inventory. Be happy to go over those with you. But yeah, mainly the things like the riot control canisters, those are typically 5 years, and any of the organic or chemicals, those are rather short. Whereas for example, the Remington 870 shotgun or the 40 millimeter, that's typically a rounds, and it's like 10,000 rounds through the launcher. So they'll be around for quite some time.
That's good. Thank you.
Councilmember Sohai.
No questions, and I'll reserve comments for after public comment.
I had a quick question about the UAV, the drones, just out of pure curiosity, because on the public safety team in Washington this last week, one of our asks was that Congress create some legislation to give some kind of enforcement mechanism for just random citizens who are flying those during natural disaster or some kind of, crowd event or whatever. I'm just curious, have you ever had an instance where you were using these and you had to stop because somebody in the area was flying them and they didn't want to take them down?
Not in the city of Lincoln. We haven't had a civilian drone impact any of our operations. And I've read countless stories of them impacting other incidents or live streaming information, or the worst is fires. And you have the helicopters or the planes that are doing drops that can't because a drone is in the air.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's take a public comment on this item. If there is any, let's start with Zoom. Ms. Scanlon, anybody on Zoom with the public comment?
Just to clarify, it's a hearing.
Huh?
It is. a
Oh, you're
public
right. I'm
hearing.
sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Public hearing open. Yes, I read that. Okay. Any comment for public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see any hands raised on Zoom. Do we have anybody downstairs that would like?
Did you want to speak? Yes, we do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Sandy. I'm from Placer County, and just curious because this is new. Is there a special location to safely store these items, to make sure that they don't fall in the wrong hands? And does this sound like this is more like riot gear? Is that what you would call that?
Yeah, so the storage of this equipment was paramount before we purchased it. A lot of this equipment we purchased in the last 2 years because we didn't realize the exposure that we had here in Lincoln. And when protests were coming our way, we needed to be ready for it. Luckily, we didn't need to use any of it. So storage was paramount. In the police department, we do have secure lockups for this equipment. So it is secure there. And if they are in vehicles, they are locked, secured, and highly inaccessible if they're on the street. As far as specifically riot gear, no, this wouldn't be riot gear. Oftentimes, for example, the 40 millimeter launcher for an individual experiencing a mental health crisis, they're frequently used in that type of situation. Say the individual has a knife or a weapon of some sort. Instead of using lethal force, we're able to deploy the 40 millimeter launcher. And that was the main reason to purchase those, was to have that option at our disposal. The gas canisters, typically you see on the news, those are for riot type situations, but they can also be used to remove people from homes, barricaded subjects. So they're not specific use, but they can be used for a number of things, riot being included, but that's certainly not the main focus, especially for our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one more question. With the pepper spray, the little balls, where do you aim for those when you're trying to convince someone to stop? Or
typically, if it was a person on the street and they're standing there, you would aim for center of mass. You aim away from the head, the groin, or any areas that an impact like that can seriously damage. But what's great about the pepper ball is you can bounce them. If they're in a vehicle, you can shoot them into the vehicle, not at the person, but at the opposite door. Yeah, and fill the vehicle full of the powder.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions down in the overflow room?
No.
Okay. Any questions in the council chambers here, or public hearing comments? Sorry. Any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, close public hearing, bring it back to the council. Any final comments? Councilmember Solhide, did you want to?
Yeah, I did have a comment. I just wanted to thank you for being very clear on what military equipment means under the purposes of the law, because it's kind of a misnomer and it sounds a little bit scary and drastic. And I appreciate that the equipment that you're seeking is really to de-escalate scary and dangerous situations that could pose a threat in our community so that you have the appropriate use of force. That's not what military equipment sounds like. So I fully support you having that so that we can appropriately respond without having to harm people.
I absolutely agree with what Councilperson Solhide said. When I first saw the agenda, I didn't see the staff report, and I thought they were going to ask for a tank.
Only if we get to ride it in the 4th of July parade.
And put lights on it.
That's awesome.
God bless me.
Here's budget.
Yeah, next year's budget. No, I agree. And I really appreciate you taking the time to bring these to show us. I think it's really good for the community to see it. And I really appreciate all the effort that your department goes to use non-lethal force. And there are times when people have to be subdued and there are serious situations. And I appreciate the effort to keep people alive. And that is, I'm sure the community appreciates that as well, but it's really cool to see all that stuff. And it's good to know what you guys are using and what we're authorizing. So I really appreciate that. Okay, if there's no other, we're just public hearing, right? No action, or no, we have to accept the motion. Okay, I'll take a motion to accept 9A.
Close the public hearing
I did
first.
already.
Did you? Okay.
I did.
In
Yep.
that case, I'll make a motion that we waive the full reading and introduce by title only ordinance 1045B, adopting a written military equipment use policy and approving use pursuit of funding for an acquisition of the military equipment described in the policy for 2022.
Second, oh, go ahead.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, that takes us to our second public hearing, item 9B. Conduct a public hearing, determine that the project remains exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under section 15315, minor land division pertaining to division of property in urbanized areas zoned for residential, commercial, or industrial use into 4 or fewer parcels, and adopt resolution 2022-112, approving the 2-year time extension of the map expiration for the Venture Drive tentative parcel map, resulting in new expiration of January 28, 2024. The applicant owner is Buzz Oats Construction, and our planning manager, Mel Pavolinas, is going to give us the report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Mel Pavolinas, Planning Manager. This is a simple request by Buzz Oaks Construction to extend their approved tentative parcel map called Venture Drive Parcel Map. The Buzz Oaks acquired the property order approval back in sometime in 2020 after the map was approved back in January of that year. The map has a 2-year standard time expiration. Since approval of the map, the project has been in process with plan check reviews. They ran out of time, but before they ran out of time, of course, they need to secure a time extension. That's why they filed this time extension request before you. The commission considered the project and approved the project for recommendation for your consideration tonight, back on March 16, 2022. And it's before you now for consideration. The recommendation by the commission consists of the following: to deem the application request exempt from CEQA under 15315, and to adopt resolution to approve the time extension request as recommended by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Paul Septet, we'll start with Councilmember Carlson. Do you have any questions or comments?
No.
No? Okay. Councilmember Lauritsen?
No.
Councilmember
No
Sahai?
questions.
Okay. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I was just going through first. Yeah, I'll wait for
Oh, Paul
Councilmember Joyner. Do you have any questions or comments on
No, I'm
this?
sorry.
No? Okay. All right. I will open the public hearing. Are there any testimonies on this item, Zoom or downstairs?
Mayor, I don't see any hands raised on Zoom. Do we have any hands downstairs?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any testimony in the chamber here? No? Okay, seeing none, I close public hearing, bring it back to the council. Are there any other comments, questions? And if not, I will take a motion to approve item 9B.
And my only comment would be that I appreciate it's gone through the process
Yeah.
and the Planning Commission's recommendation, and I'm happy to endorse it.
And I think my conversation with Mr. Scully today too confirms that they've actually been doing work. They are working on it. They're not just sitting still. They just need a little bit more time. And so I appreciate their request and that they are trying to make progress.
Yes, they are.
Okay, I'll take a motion if you're ready.
Sure, I'm happy to make it. All right, I move that do I need to read the one?
I read it already. Do we have to
You read
read
it.
again?
Can I just say so moved since she read it in the beginning, or do I need to restate it, Christine? All right, so I move to adopt resolution 2022-112.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskin,
Yes.
Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate your work on this. Thank you. All right, this brings us to item 10, general business. Item 10A is to adopt resolution 2022-113 of censure of Councilmember William Lauritsen. I'm going to just take a moment to introduce this, and then we're going to follow a very proper procedure and make sure everybody is heard. And so just in brief explanation of this item, as everybody knows, Matthew Oliver was doing a Facebook Live on April 25th at William Jessup at a congressional candidate forum. And there was an altercation between Councilmember Lauritsen and Matthew Oliver. And it was very concerning to the council. And so I also want to comment on, there's been a lot of questions and a lot of concern over the council calling closed session after that. And I just want to be very clear with the public that we received a letter of a threatened litigation. And when that happens, the council is well within our legal rights to call closed session. And from that meeting, we gave direction to the staff to bring this resolution forward. And so that is where we are tonight. So what we're going to do is I'm going to allow Councilmember Lauritsen to say what he needs to say. And the reason he didn't have an opportunity at the last council meeting is because it wasn't on the agenda. I am allowed to bring council initiated business. I brought it forward and now it's on the agenda. And so now this is the due process that everybody has been asking about. This right here is the legal due process. So we're going to let Councilmember Lauritsen speak. Then I'm going to go to the public comment and then we'll come back to the council and then we'll take a vote on it. Okay. And I'm going to ask the audience here, as I did last time. I know that this is very emotionally charged and there are feelings and thoughts on both sides. I'm going to ask that you remain respectful, no clapping, yelling, cheering, because I want everyone to feel welcome to come to the podium and speak, not to feel intimidated on either side. Okay. Somebody online called me a communist for saying that last week, and I laugh at that. My goal is that everybody feels welcome to come to the podium. And so that's why I'm asking that, okay? Not because I don't want you to express yourself, okay? Councilmember Lauritsen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I wish to respond to the outrageous and dishonest narrative surrounding my debate with Matthew Oliver. I did not assault him or insult him or his son. If anything, he accosted me by coming up to me and pushing against my body and pushing his cell phone in my face. He is very skillful at manipulating his cell phone camera. By the way, he was joking and laughing all the time. A tape seen on Sacramento ABC 10, not from Oliver, shows us both laughing and posing for a picture together at the end. On April 25th, a candidate debate was scheduled for the California Congressional District 3 race at William Jessup University. Matthew Oliver entered the auditorium live streaming, asking the university president if punches would be thrown or any Will Smith slaps. This is long before his conversation with me. He then goes looking for someone to ambush, spots me and says, see if he avoids me. I'm like a ninja. I'm really good at this. I'm getting myself in trouble a little. Did any members of the council watch this tape? Your opinions seem to be based solely on what Oliver said after on his Facebook feed. And yes, he does have a bullhorn of a Facebook feed. Why is Oliver smiling through the entire tape? Is it because he feels he has accomplished something? To him, not to me now, it was a big joke. He said that he would return to the house of Oliver for wine, maybe a margarita or martini or straight whiskey shots. He even claimed the so-called assault took his virginity. Does this sound like he was serious? More than likely, he had something to do with the impending closure of his restaurant for violating the health code. My only regret was not ending our debate sooner or even talking to the man in the first place. For that, I'm truly sorry. The main issue here is not Matthew Oliver, but the Lincoln City Council's response to the situation. 2 weeks ago, at our regular council meeting, I was harangued by Matthew Oliver, his wife, and some of his friends. I had to sit and listen to some rather disgusting claims. The mayor promised that I would have a chance to reply, but then made her own greatly exaggerated statements in line with Oliver's and asked me to resign. When I tried to respond, I was told that any statement that I would make was not on the agenda, but no explanation was given
as to how the mayor's statements were on the agenda. This went against everything that is part of the American concept of a democracy, free speech, and fair play. After a closed-door meeting on April 27th, the official Lincoln City press release was issued, signed by 4 other members of the council, repeating some of the ridiculous statements made by Matthew Oliver. Later, the city resent the press release as an email blast. Because there was never a vote on this statement, I never saw it before it was issued. In addition, in the press release, the other 4 council members asked that I resign or be recalled. In essence, they are using City of Lincoln resources to campaign against me. If there were violations of the Brown Act, I suggest the other members of the council look in the mirror. By sending out the press release and follow-up email blast before any official action was voted upon, you violated any sense of due process. And oh, by the way, some of you have taken campaign contributions from Matthew Oliver. Are you completely unbiased? My actions cannot reasonably be said to have caused me to no longer be able to effectively serve the voters of District 4. It cannot reasonably be said that the city's regional partners have lost their trust in the city and all of the city government. To make these claims and to say them in writing in the resolution of censure is a gross exaggeration and is false. Nothing in my encounter with Matthew Oliver warrants such action or any other action by the council. To say in the resolution of censure that my conduct will place extra burdens of time and energy upon the balance of the council members is false. The only increased burden is due to the unreasonable, disproportionate, and vindictive actions you chose to take. The extra burden is of your own making. False statements make the first item of the resolution untrue. The first item says the foregoing recitals are true and correct and incorporated herein by reference. Those recitals are not true and they are not correct. In conclusion, I disagree with 10A, the resolution of censure. I ask that the resolution be withdrawn. You have made your point. I have clearly heard you. Item 10A is excessive. I ask that item 10A be withdrawn and a press release be issued refuting the untrue statements made in it and apologizing for using city funds to wage a campaign against me. I will not resign. Thank you very much for your attention.
Please don't yell from the gallery. Okay, thank you. Okay. Mr. Lawson, is that everything that you would like to say?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. All right.
They're going to call for public comment soon.
Yeah, we'll let,
Yes, going to do that right now. Okay, so I do have several speaker cards and then I will call for anybody who didn't fill out a card, but we're going to start with Zoom first. Anybody on Zoom that
So
wants?
actually, Mayor, we're going to start with the folks downstairs.
Oh, that's fine.
Yes.
That's fine.
So if we have anybody downstairs.
Anybody?
you guys want to go first?
Go ahead. Hold on just a second. Okay, whoever's ready to speak first, please step up to the microphone. Thank you.
Do I just push the button or is it good? You're good.
You're good.
You're live.
So I actually did watch your little antics that you guys had going on there on the live Zoom on Facebook. And what I saw there was a man at minute marker number 924 say that I was a part of the deep state for 28 years. And then I had top security clearance. And then you turned around and turned to Matthew Oliver and told him that his rights don't matter and only your rights matter. So I'm just kind of getting confused. I mean, for somebody like you to be able to sit on the board still and for you to actually get paid, I mean, I don't even think censorship is a option for you. I think that you just need to be taken off altogether. I mean, people like that threaten to deport people because an American citizen at that, but because of their skin color, I mean, that is like so crazy that somebody like that could actually represent the city of Lincoln. So, I mean, I've kind of watched it. I watched it in Auburn with Bill Kirby when he was the mayor and he was slamming against the other side. And now we're seeing it again in Lincoln. So it's like, when are you guys going to root out all these people that are literally undermining our democracy? I mean, for you to be able to tell somebody, oh, and by the way, something, I'm not vaccinated. So let's get that out of the way right now, because for you people to be able to come after people with that sort of a attitude about people that aren't vaccinated and tell them that they're not American for that, when we're, trust me, very, very American people, is just totally ludicrous. So as far as I'm concerned, being censored isn't ethical at all. We need to literally take you out of your seat and replace you. That's all I have to say. So thank you very much. And I hope that all this goes really, really well for the Patriots. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Else?
Yeah.
This will be the last time you get to speak on this. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I would just like to say that anybody in public office is held to a higher standard, and to lose control and to let your emotions get the best of you when you're representing so many people, it's just not appropriate. And I'm just so sorry to hear that that happened.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have no further comment from this room.
Hey, thank you. On Zoom?
Yes, we do have a hand raised. Richard, please go ahead. Richard, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry about that. I've known Matthew Oliver for a couple of years, on and off. I don't know him like real well. We don't hang out together, but I will honestly say I've probably seen 3 or 4 hours total time with him, whether it be on for Facebook or in live person at his restaurant, at the Capitol, wherever it might be. And I've never seen the man without a smile. Lawrence said some pretty ugly things, very racist things. It shows that he probably hates Polish people just as much as Irish. Definitely has problems with people of ethnicity. It's all recorded. You all saw it. You all heard him using race against Matthew Oliver, calling him un-American several times. And then he started making implications that Matthew Oliver's a murderer because he didn't shut down his restaurant, in the way that this fear-mongering Lordson communist wants people to adhere to medical professionals who are overstepping their boundaries. He insinuated that people that don't get vaccinated or people that don't stay locked up in their houses are murderers. That man is a very sick man. It comes out in the very words that he said that Matthew Oliver painstakingly had to endure. And I'm thankful I heard that. I know that Matthew can be a little provocative, going around trying to videotape people, but he's just trying to expose the evil that's in the hearts of people like Lawrence. He's just there trying to expose that. I had to go to the state capitol, and I've exposed that in Wiener. I've exposed that in Penn. They're very sick people. They think they're gods. They think they know what's right for everybody else and want to shove it down people's throats, no matter what businesses they close down, no matter what lives they destroy, as long as they can have their power in their way. And then they'll resort to such cheap shots that this man did. Yes, he's a disgrace as a leader. Don't let him continue to be a disgrace for Lincoln City Council, because you guys out there are showing some pretty good callers, both in Lincoln, Roseville, and other areas, is standing up for the people in your community and doing right by them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Lena Lebowski, please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just want to encourage you to vote yes on this resolution. Bill Larson is my representative in District 4, and I'm very ashamed of his actions, his words, the way he acted. You know, it's on video. He can't deny what he did. And I encourage you to censure him. And I wish you could just take him off the council. I realize you can't do that. There has to be a recall to do that. But I encourage you to move forward with this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't see any other hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll go to our speaker cards. First up is Tom and Drury.
Good evening, Mayor Andriotta and fellow council members. As the CEO of the Lincoln Area Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to reiterate our firm commitment to the business community. I feel compelled to comment on the events that occurred on April 25th at the 3rd District Candidate Forum between Mr. Oliver and Councilmember Lawson. No matter the difference of opinions, political ideology, or pressures placed on an elected official, one cannot let their emotions spill over into verbal or physical confrontation with a constituent. As hard as it may be, one has to walk away rather than engage in rhetoric that is unfitting of the position of responsibilities to the council. As stated in the city's official response to this matter, I quote, "This great city, our residents, our business community, our staff expect and deserve the highest level of professionalism, respect, and integrity from their elected representatives. We, as a council, hold ourselves to a higher standard and continually seek to earn and keep the trust of the public," end quote. On a side note, as a former elected official, I too found myself in many similar situations to which I had to refrain from letting my emotions get the best of me. And it's just a real unfortunate situation because the city has been doing such a great job. And now to see the division and what's going on, it's just sad. But regarding moving forward, we have made tremendous strides on working together for the betterment of our businesses, nonprofits, and the community as a whole. I believe that this great community must continue to focus on delivering what makes Lincoln the special place that it is: love of community, service, and the quality of life we all have come to enjoy in this great all-American city. So I just wish you all the best, and hope we settle this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next up is Michael Huang. Hi, Doctor.
Hello. Mayor and councils, I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you tonight. People's Republic of California. That's where we're heading. With everything that has happened in our state, in our community, we're canceling each other, we're fighting each other. There's nothing better that our enemy like to see is that we destroy each other. Councilman Larson, same thing, similar like what you and Matthew Oliver happened to me when I was going through medical training. I got slapped by one of my medical attending because he didn't like what I had to say about the medical treatment. And he was brought to a council and he was going to lose his job. So in the council meeting, they asked me, "Dr. Mike, what would you like to do?" I say, "I don't want him to lose his job. I want him to get better. I don't want him to slap anyone else." And he was shocked to hear that. Why is that? We need to stop tearing each other down. I am tired of the cancel culture. We need to build each other up. In the past 2 years, I have treated many of you. You have touched my life greatly. And I have seen all your lovely kids and grandkids' face. It just filled me with joy. And it's my honor to serve this community and build everyone up. But yet, unfortunately, from the school board, I think I've been reported 16 times to the medical board because I'm trying to protect our kids. And soon my practice will probably be destroyed as a result. Once my practice is done, who is going to treat you? Who is going to treat your children? We're just going to get weaker and weaker. So my recommendation is, and I spoke with Matthew about this, if you're willing, have a talk with Matthew. Let's make ourselves stronger. Let's learn from this and move on. But yes, it's true, like many other speakers have spoken. When you are a council member, you do have a responsibility like me. When I'm a physician, I do have a responsibility to uphold a certain standard. If something happened, it's the heat of the moment, let's move on. Let's talk about this. Let's make each other better, and let's not destroy and tear down our society. And I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you all tonight. And look at the energy in this room. This is a little pocket of heaven, California. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, next up, Jerry Bresh.
Hi, want to thank the mayor, the council, the staff, people that have attended here tonight for listening to my comments. I'm first, I was going to start off in another way, but I want to thank the doctor for appreciating who he started off with. To me, it was like, can't we all get along? If you all remember the Rodney incident. So I'm not going to discuss the details of the incident between Matthew and Bill. I did watch both the Facebook Live. I watched the April 26th council meetings. I saw Matthew and all of his supporters make comments, and I understand that. And so what I'm really going to do is talk about more of due process and disenfranchising Councilman Lawrenson's constituents. So if just a brief recap of the timetable as I understand it, that April 25th, there was a candidate congressional forum and that incident occurred. April 26th, there was a regular council meeting. Mr. Oliver and supporters made complaints about conduct of Mr. Lawrenson during non-agenda items, so there could only be limited discussion. April 27th, there was a closed meeting by the council to discuss the situation, and a decision was made by council to ask Mr. Lawrenson to resign. April 28th, press release goes out from the council recommending a censure or suggesting that maybe the citizens of Lincoln should initiate a recall. That might even be better. So the speedy schedule by what this council went through, it looked like a real rush to judgment of deciding that we're going to decide the punishment for the accused before we even get through the due process. So this may be within your power to do, but I'm not sure if it was really right or ethical. My request would be to, well, why don't you spend a little bit more time? Let's not get all excited and feel as though you got to make a decision tonight. And maybe you could appoint an independent, neutral person to collect and gather the facts for an evidentiary hearing. And then after that's there, you can have the information presented to you. And then if you still feel the decision you made with the censure was the right one to make, then you can do it. But at least there's been a due process rather than just we got together and we decided we were in a real hurry and we didn't want to take any more time about this. So the censure results, I'll go into that. If the council does decide to go with censure and remove Lawrenson from his committees and other assignments, his 5,000 plus constituents, minus the one lady that spoke, are essentially disenfranchised from their representative. I don't know who you're going to appoint, but we voted for Bill, or at least 5,000 did, to represent our constituents' concerns on such committees as he's on now, with economic development and other committees. Instead of just punishing Lawrenson, you're really punishing his 5,000 voters. So my recommendation is just slow down. Don't have a rush to judgment so fast. Make sure you got all the facts and consequences understood before you go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is Fred Barnhart.
Mayor, Council. I'm Fred Barnhart. I live in District 4, represented by Bill Lawrenson. I found him to be extremely approachable and responsive, and he represents us, I think, well on City Council. But more than that, he also represents us well on the various committees, commissions, and so on. Really is the work of the council. These meetings are open to the public and they're important. But as you all know, you all spent a lot of time, and I know that Bill has spent a lot of time on these as well. And I think the city is well served by his comments and his expertise in economic development, water, and of course, his background in audit. Like yourselves, he spent a lot of time doing this. On April 25th, he was stalked and then ambushed on a live feed. And so he should have walked away. As he said, he should have walked away. He didn't walk away. So here we are. So the response of the city council to not walking away is the most drastic action you could take, which is a censure, which strikes me as an overreach and really unwarranted. And so I would urge you to not adopt the resolution and in fact withdraw it for several reasons. First of all, I think it's totally out of proportion to the incident itself. Second of all, it creates a second class of council member, one that not only doesn't have the responsibilities, but also doesn't have the rights and the responsibilities. They should really continue to be on the committees. And it's really a matter for the voters to decide. In the next election, if people are as concerned about this in the same way as many of you are, there's always the option to vote him out of office. The Lincoln News Messenger had a editorial the other day that I thought made some very good points. One of them was that the city council acted hastily and without sufficient evidence. How much better it would have been to have somebody investigate the facts for moving forward. They also had another point that I thought was important, and a quote, it's the mayor and the 3 other council members that are causing embarrassment. I think that a rush to judgment, a lack of process, a possible violation of the Brown Act are embarrassing to the city. And I think that we still have time to rescind and not pass the resolution. I urge you not to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Jennifer Lee.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, for hearing me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to address this matter with Mr. Lauritsen. Let me take a moment here and pause. I came here tonight because I was hopeful to hear an amends from you to the Olivers, especially Mrs. Oliver. I had a chance to hear about and view a clip about what took place around this matter, Mr. Lauritsen. And, you know, in addition to comments that I have about your behavior in the live stream, I'm more profoundly, deeply disturbed by your inability to offer an appropriate apology and amends for your actions. Mrs. Oliver gave a heartfelt, very vulnerable, very honest testimony about how this incident has impacted her and her family. You abused your power. You abused your power in a way that was horrific. And I fear that if appropriate measures aren't taken, and I don't know what those are, that this will set a very, very scary precedent for our community. You're in a position of leadership. I believe you are not fit to lead based on your behavior, based on your unwillingness to take accountability, responsibility, or offer even an apology in private, much less in public. I prayed to find a place of compassion for you today and not speak in a manner that could be conveyed as toxic. You were very toxic in the video. I had a sleepless night that night. While I can understand that someone could have, lack of control of their impulses in a moment, I commend the council for acting quickly on this. Your behaviors demonstrated that you are not a fit leader, Mr. Lauritsen. In no way should a city leader behave that way to anyone, much less in a Facebook live stream. You knew he was filming. You knew he was just being playful, light. He wasn't being toxic. You were. I hope that you will do the right thing and step down from your position of your own accord, Mr. Lauritsen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, next up, Christina Ferria.
Good evening, Mayor Andriata and council members. My name is Christina Ferria, and I serve as the district director to State Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, who, as you know, represents the city of Lincoln in our state capital. I am here on behalf of Assemblyman Kiley in support of the resolution to censure Councilmember William Lauritsen. The Assemblyman has provided the following written statement. Matthew Oliver is an exceptional leader in our community, and I stand with him in urging members of the Lincoln City Council to support the resolution to censure Councilmember Lauritsen for his disturbing conduct. Whatever our differences are, we should be committed to discussing them and debating them in a spirited, professional manner. It is never acceptable to resort to acts of aggression or physical violence toward another person. As elected officials, we must hold ourselves to the highest standards of conduct when interacting with others. Councilmember Lauritsen crossed a major line. I fully condemn his behavior, and he should have to face consequences for his actions. Signed, Assemblyman Kevin Kiley. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, next up, Rachel LaForest.
I'm a little different than some of the other people who have spoken because I was physically there and watched the whole thing live. I saw what happened before and after. I stood about 10 feet away from Matthew Oliver as he filmed at the Forum for the 3rd Congressional District at William Jessup University. Oliver stated that he wanted to grab someone. Thank God he didn't grab me because, well, and that remark was out of place because the whole event was very calm, otherwise, and organized. I was curious why he was even there filming. Was it a setup? So I continued to watch. And I noticed that Scott Jones and Dr. Kermit Jones kept distance from Oliver. But Oliver kept pestering on, asking if there would be some punches thrown. Oliver said, I'm really good at this. I'm getting myself in trouble a bit. Oliver disrespected Dr. Kermit Jones repeatedly, inferring that he was a frog. This forum was professional, except for Matthew's constant provocation. Lauritsen could have walked away, and instead, he decided to correct the record, saying Dr. Kermit Jones was a candidate for Congress. Oh, so he's a doctor? That is what was said. And although Dr. Jones is indeed an internal medical physician, Oliver's sarcastic intention was followed by, well, he's not a very smart doctor. I believe that Lauritsen got irritated because I certainly did. at what was going on near the snacks table prior to the actual start of the forum. Oliver went out of the room briefly into the corridor, and I saw that too. And he joked about wanting to go drink some wine. He then came back into the room, and that was when the interchange between the two men escalated. Oliver said, "The assault took my virginity." And I feel that that is a horrible slam against women who have truly been assaulted. To have used the word assault was inappropriate considering the horseplay, which I was witnessing going on. In conclusion,
Please let her finish. Go ahead. Thank you.
the provocation by Matthew Oliver should not have ever begun. But I suspect Oliver had a mission. Let he who is without fault throw the first stone. I ask that Matthew Oliver be asked, did you indeed seriously threaten a certain candidate for supervisor and his family, as I have heard live? I ask the council to say, the lesson has been learned, and close the issue.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, can I please remind the gallery that there are folks here tonight on both sides of this that feel very strongly, and that outbursts are intimidating to some speakers and some people might not feel comfortable coming forward. Could I just ask for a little more respect? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sohai. Okay, last speaker card that I have is Annette Irwin.
Good evening, Mayor Andriotta, council members. First, I want to thank you for your words last week. I'm assuming that there's some law, like you mentioned, that you guys can't speak up. I was kind of, and the fact that nobody else has come up publicly and said anything about this is concerning. I'm a 12-year resident of Lincoln. I've stood before you guys on many issues, from the skate park when it got torn down to the hotel that was being built in 12 Bridges. We didn't agree on some. We agreed on some. I'm here. I'm glad that we agree on this one. The first thing I would ask is whose job is on the line here? I don't know why we're bringing up Matthew Oliver, because this is all about the council member here. And I just want to make some points speaking to you guys, just in case you didn't know. He won uncontested. Nobody else ran against him. So there was nobody else that could represent that community there, I'm sure. And I've heard of other people willing to step up to his position. So hopefully we can get that recall going. I'm not sure exactly the how that works, but maybe we could get help on how to start the recall and anyway, get him out. Any CEO or leader of any company, whether it be Target, even a cashier at Target, if they physically assaulted anyone, they're removed from their position immediately. And the fact that he still gets to stay here after physically assaulting someone is very concerning. I feel that we're setting a precedent for future outbursts, whatever the case may be, if we allow this to go on and, oh, it was just a slap, or, oh, it was just this. And are we really treating it this way because who this was, who the victim was here, because it was Matthew Oliver, because he has a bigger voice and maybe people don't agree with the things that he says? Or what if it was me? What if I was there and I had my phone up, which is not novel, by the way. Matthew Oliver holds his phone up everywhere he goes. If I was the one who was holding my phone up and a slap came across my back to my face, are we treating this the same? I sure hope not. And it's both ways, right? It's a shame that we are treating it this way, because I believe that's who it was directed towards. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I'm nervous again that this is how this will continue. I've seen this type of behavior on TV in the last few years. A group called Antifa, big in the Bay Area. That's the kind of behavior that I've seen, and I really hope that's not what is infiltrating this beautiful city of Lincoln. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's all the speaker cards I have, but if there's anyone else in the chambers that would like to come to the microphone and make a comment, please do so now. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me. Josh Armstrong, resident here. Just wanted to read something initially on the sanctions in regards to him being stripped of some of his roles. I'm not really going to comment on that. I think the doctor kind of shines some light on my perspective in this in regards to Matt. Matt's a good friend of mine. We do business together. We have disagreements and friendly debates all the time, I think this is generally the position of the council and the city as a whole, and the discussions in and around masking and COVID in general. This is off your city website here. The city of Lincoln follows the guidance of Placer County Public Health Office and California Department of Public Health and the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The city does not have a public health officer or public health department. Current orders, directives, and requirements, statewide mask requirements talks about masks are required for unvaccinated individuals, indoors settings, and businesses. Fully vaccinated individuals are recommended to continue indoor masking when the risk may be high. Some indoor spaces such as public transit and schools require masks regardless of vaccination status. The reason I'm saying this is the comments that were made that day and the escalation that happened. No offense to any of you here, but you have really no power to change any of those. So his opinion on masking or Matt's opinion on masking or vaccination doesn't set the process and precedent of what city council does. And also furthermore, even to the county level, the county health department would kind of do the same, where they have to follow the law, right? And that's why it's stated on your website. So in many senses, this discussion wasn't a reflection on the city council because you're not actually putting any of these ordinances into place. This was passed down and it was obviously a heated debate between the two. I hope that they actually could come to a consensus to agree to disagree. I didn't think the debate went over very well and there wasn't many valid points that actually bared any substance to addressing their differences of opinions. But I just wanted to state that because, you know, being a Lincoln resident here and also participating in this community, it's huge that service, collaboration, and friendly debate happen here. And I don't want to see that to infiltrate our city and to continue on through the great service that we provide.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, any other comments in the chamber? Okay, please step to the mic. Sorry, I saw a hand. Okay, go ahead, sweetheart. Go ahead. Can you, okay, there's a lower one. Go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Lauren Hearn, and when I saw that video, I just thought, why would a grown man, talk to another man and act that way towards another man that way? And I don't know why someone would ever do it.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hi, Holly.
Hi.
Danielle Sellers, resident of Lincoln. Bill, I believe you know me, and I believe you misrepresented yourself with me several times before. So this incident that took place does not surprise me. Listening to everybody speak and everything that I saw, I'm a teacher. When I walked onto the playground, mini playgrounds, 11 to be exact, a couple weeks ago, talk of the town on the playground was the Will Smith slap, okay? And it's all the kids are watching on TikTok, YouTube, it's all over social media, okay? And then we come back a week later and we have Bill attacking someone. Aside from that being disturbing, you know, unfortunately, kids are involved in politics these days. I was never involved in politics as a child, as a 10-year-old, because I didn't have to be. But now kids have to be involved and they know what's going on. After watching the video, my 10-year-old said, "Mom, why does it matter if he's vaccinated? He slapped him because he's not vaccinated." I don't know why you slapped him, Bill. And I know you represent Sun City constituents. You don't represent the children of our community. You might want to think about that one because there's a ton of children in this community and they were all watching you. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, anybody else? Last call for, okay, go ahead and step to the mic. Yeah, I will.
My name is Scott Cash.
I'm a commercial real estate broker in Placer County, and I've owned a home here in Lincoln for over 20 years. I've never really been to the city council. I've never had a reason to come until tonight. Have you seen this video? I think each one of you should be required, since it's the only evidence that you have, you should be required to watch it and make your own determination. Look around you, Bill. Where do you think all this money comes from? It's from business owners like Mr. Oliver. You know how long that Behrman's building was vacant? Do you have any idea how this city suffered for many years because there was no synergy downtown? He finally took that on, and it's a big commitment. What's most disturbing was your statement to Mr. Oliver and his son about being deported. I watched the video. Don't tell me you didn't say it. Especially what's happening on our southern border right now. I think your statements could be considered a hate crime. I urge you to do the right thing and to step down. Ironically, whatever good you've ever done in your life, you're going to be remembered by your actions that day and your statements tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw a hand over here. Anybody else? Okay, all right.
Mayor, we do have a hand raised on Zoom.
I'll get to them in just 1 second. Yeah, I was going to come back to Zoom. Hi,
Hi, my name is Sue Woodby Lyle.
can you stand over here so we can hear you?
Yes, I can.
There you go. Thank
My
you
name
so
is
much.
Sue Woodby Lyle, and I'm really sorry I have no voice tonight, but when I look around and I look at all of you, I look at people who believe in people, look them in the eye. Mr. Lawrenson, you have not looked out at the audience hardly at all tonight. I believe people who believe in what they're saying, you won't even look at me, and I'm talking to you. So I have disappointment in you. You have really, I came here thinking maybe you were an okay person, but you didn't look at anybody that talked to you tonight. You just put your head down, and that to me says you're a coward. So I don't know what your problem is, but you disappoint me. And I am sorry that you represent the town that I moved to. So I am sorry. Please resign or do whatever you have to do. But please, if you can't look at a person straight in the eye, and you're not looking at me right now, so your disappointment, quit. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Matthew. Oh, I'm sorry. Matthew, can you hold on 1 second? I said I would come back to Zoom and then I'll come to you. I apologize.
Yes, Kirk Euler, please go ahead. Kirk.
Yes, good evening.
Thank you.
My name is Kirk Euler. I am the Executive Director of the Placer Business Alliance. We were co-hosts of the event at which this unfortunate occurrence transpired. And I had the opportunity to engage with a number of people who were there. I did not personally witness the event live, but did talk to a number of folks who did witness it live and then witnessed the follow-up, Bill, between you and Matthew's son. Now, let me be clear. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Placer Business Alliance. The Placer Business Alliance has taken no position on this. I am speaking as an 18-year former elected official in Placer County, as somebody who has sat in some of the most impassioned board meetings where our board of supervisors received death threats, where we had to clear the board chambers due to bomb threats. And this kind of behavior just has no place in public discourse, Bill. This is simply not the way that we are supposed to act. We have got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We have to be examples to other people in the room. Bill, you have placed this council in a very awkward position. You're not doing yourself any favors, and you're certainly not doing your city any favors. Dignity would require that you would step down at this point. I ask the council, do whatever you feel you need to do regarding the resolution. But Bill, you should never put him in this place to begin with. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Euler. Okay, Matthew, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I want to open up by first apologizing to you guys for being in this position. I think that you have a lot of very important things to be doing, and I apologize that this is taking that time away. And to the members of Lincoln that we've been put in this position, I apologize. What I don't apologize is for the revelation of who Mr. Lawrenson is. I want to take a moment and let Bill know, I forgive you for your actions. I don't hold that against you. But I've had people ask what our outcome is and why I'm still passionate about this. A little over a year ago, one of my employees came to me who was being physically abused by her significant other. And what started out as a harassment and a slap ended up costing her life. And all it takes is for people to do nothing. I asked myself a question: how did you get to this age and this place in life where you feel it's okay to physically assault someone and smack them? And it's because no one has stood up to you before. Well, I am going to stand up to you like I wish I would have stood up more for my employee, so that you do not have the opportunity to physically assault, harass, or demean other members of this community and of this city. I forgive you, but what you did was unacceptable, and it should require your removal. Not only should you step down, but you should apologize, not only to me, but to all of those that you have harassed, intimidated, and bullied throughout the years and in this community. Your time has come. You need to go. Thank you.
Go ahead. All right, let's not clap. Please be respectful.
Dusty Tornay, I've been a resident of Lincoln for 17 years, and I've come up before you guys before. So thank you for letting me speak. I don't know Matt Oliver very well. I've met him a couple of times. Seems like a great guy, funny guy, very lighthearted. And the video was astounding, to say the least. But the only, of all the things that happened and were said, the one thing that stands out to me the most that I just can't forget is that Bill said that he doesn't care about Matt's right. He only cares about his own. So why are you here?
Thank you. Okay, last call for public comment. Anybody else? Okay, thank you all for hanging with there and for sharing and coming up on both sides. We appreciate your comment. So I'm going to bring it back to the council now, and I'm going to start with Mayor Pro Tem Joyner.
I made a conscious decision not to write down any thoughts in advance of this. I wanted to keep a very open mind. I was hopeful of hearing something from Councilmember Lawrence that would somehow mitigate the actions that I feel this council is being forced into. This is not a place I want to be. This is not a place we want to be. This is not a place that any of these folks want to be tonight. This is an incredibly uncomfortable situation. Never in the 132-year history of this city has a council been here considering censure of one of its members. Many hours of each day since the incident, for me at least, and I believe for my fellow council members, have been filled with dealing of the ramifications of your actions. You say you're only sorry that you didn't walk away. You did walk away and circled back
and walked away again and circled back. Multiple times you had the opportunity to disengage and chose not to. I have never seen an elected official act in such an outrageous manner. Many have said that you were not representing the city, that you were acting as a private individual, and that may be true. But what is also true is when you hold elected office, you are always that elected official. You can never take that hat off. The public will not see you as a private individual. I'm saddened with where we find ourselves. I do want to point out, a few people suggested that the residents of District 4 would be disenfranchised if we were to remove Bill from his committee assignments. Assume for a moment that this council takes that action, takes the actions of censure and removes him from committees, whatever form that takes. He will retain his voting rights on this council. Staff will still work with him to address the needs of his constituents. None of that goes away. You will be represented and represented well. If not from Bill, then from the rest of us. I think a very clear message needs to be sent. That we not only hold ourselves to a high standard, we hold our fellow council members to a very high standard. We have all been put under pressure, incredible pressure. Some of us more than others. And I think we've always acted in a very professional manner, regardless of what was going on internally to us. I wanted to see that from you as well, Bill. And I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it here tonight. I didn't see it in our closed session. I haven't seen it in your interactions with others. I don't feel that you leave us any option but to seriously consider censure of you tonight. And I'm going to be supportive of that action.
Councilmember Lortson. I mean, Carlos Kent, sorry. Sorry, Dan, sorry. It's a very emotional evening.
I did write mine down because I sometimes forget or cuss, and I don't want to do either one. So it pains me that we have to even have an item like this on our agenda. And actually, in my estimation, it reinforced that the city is a microcosm of our nation. What used to be discourse and dialogue has devolved to divisiveness and incivility. Both parties to this confrontation, which we've been talking about, and forms the action that causes the action before us, are complicit in the spectacle that has been broadcast to the world via social media. Unfortunately, the only one of the parties that was within the city council purview is Mr. Lawrenson. To arrive at the point we are today, the legal and correct procedure was followed. The morning after the confrontation, we received a notice from Mr. Oliver's legal representative that proceedings against the city were being contemplated. Normal procedure is to schedule a closed session to discuss litigation strategy when litigation is threatened. Because of the public notoriety, it was felt that at the best that an emergency meeting should be called, which is why it happened so quickly. The closed session was held with all 5 members of the council in attendance. Discussion regarding our strategy for mitigating the litigation potential. And we talked about that strategy, and we arrived at a consensus. And we gave direction to staff. And this resolution that we're talking about tonight is a result of our direction and is a correct interpretation of our direction. This is what we said. This is the results of what we said in the closed session. As a normal procedure, this is the first time that the council will take any action on any item regarding the whole issue. We have not taken any action. We gave direction to staff to prepare a resolution. We do this quite often, and we may decide to change it. Actually, after reading the resolution, spending considerable time thinking about it, I have a couple of changes that I'd like to make, as usual. I'd like to propose this to my colleague. First of all, is to replace the third whereas clause to the following. Whereas Mr. Lawrenson was invited to the event by alliance as a council member and was identified as a city councilman in the first few seconds of his encounter with the live stream of Mr. Oliver. First, he called him Lincoln Councilman Bill Lawrenson. And then secondly, about 20 seconds later, he says, Bill, as representative of Lincoln, what do you think about Kylie? And he shouldn't been, and he isn't acting as a representative of Lincoln. But the perception was that he was a representative of Lincoln. My second change is to remove all the references to the city commissions and committees, so that the only resulting terminations of his responsibilities are regional committees, commissions, and boards. In other words, he retains his city assignments, but has no regional assignments. This actually results in two changes, one to the eighth whereas clause and section 3 of the resolution. I do, however, I want to remind you why I arrived at this. That on regional boards, commissions, and committee, we appoint people to represent the council, us, and those people that we appoint, we must have the trust and faith of the council that appoints them. Because of everything that has happened, I personally do not have the trust that Mr. Lawrenson can fully represent the council in environments that are often stressful and adversarial. Okay, so I put those two up. I don't know whether we want to handle them now or wait till we go through the rest of the comments and then I'll make.
Is that the end of your comments?
That's the end of
Okay.
my comments.
Okay, then we'll wait and we'll come back to that and I'll
Yeah.
let Councilmember Silhai speak.
So like my colleague, Paul, I didn't write out any comments. I want to maybe set the record straight before I talk to Bill. I've gotten a lot of emails, both sides. And one of the reasons why I moved to waive our client attorney privilege from that closed session that night is I think it's important that everyone kind of understands like what the scope of what we're dealing with here. First of all, I reached out to Bill before we met in closed session and gave him the opportunity to ask me any questions so that he knew exactly why I was so upset. I thought I owed that to him as a colleague. There's nothing about this that's personal. This isn't a personal attack on a human. This is about a position. This is about a precedent. This is about impacts to our city. And our job, when we took that oath of office, our job is to protect you. Our job is to protect the city. Our job is to make decisions that are in your best interest only. Our job is to make sure that we keep the public's trust, that we have the public's trust. Our job is to be able to attract economic development opportunities so that we can have the police force that you deserve, so that we can have the fire staffing that you deserve. We don't have that right now. We're working really, really, really hard towards it. These types of behaviors, they jeopardize it. These are the sorts of things that I told Bill before we went into closed session. We went into closed session because we received notification as a city from Mr. Oliver's attorney of potential impending litigation. That's a financial hit to the taxpayer because of poor decision-making. There are real consequences on the line here. Bill was in closed session. He was not excluded from that. He is a sitting council member. He had access to all of the same discussion. We all looked him in his eyes. We all asked for his input. We gave him the opportunity to speak first, and then we all spoke. It was really heated. There were no apologies. And this is where I'm going to look at you, Bill. There was no acknowledgement that your behavior is not okay. I like you, we get along just fine, but that behavior, that's not befitting of someone who holds a public office. And Dr. Huang, did I say that correctly? Your comments really hit my heart because I believe that. I believe that we need to build each other up, but I also feel like, you know, I'm a mom. I have 3 little kids at home. I got a middle schooler, she's 13. I have a very rough around the edges 10-and-a-half-year-old who's impulsive and sometimes smacks people, but he's 10, right? I try to build him, and I have a 5-year-old who hits a lot of people because he's 5. And part of that building someone up to be able to be productive is having predictable expectations, right? You set predictable boundaries that have predictable consequences. And that's how society thrives. That's my job as a parent. And I feel like I'm having to parent my council member. And it's a really uncomfortable position to be put in. But as a community, it's your job to put those boundaries on us, right? We run for office, and it's your job to say, this is what we expect. This is the standard that we expect from you. And there needs to be a predictable consequence when we don't rise to that occasion. It's embarrassing. It's really disheartening. It's a sideshow. We have real business to do, and we've been doing so well. We've come so far. One of the things that I told Bill, and maybe he doesn't understand, was he said, what do your kids have to do with it? You know, my littlest was 2 when I got on council. I've missed a lot of my kid's life, making sure that I was at every single event I could possibly go to, building the reputation of the city, building relationships across borders, building relationships with community leaders, with business leaders, with just your average resident, building relationships with regional partners, with partners in the greater Sacramento metropolitan area, with partners in the full 6-county region, right? So that Lincoln could have a professionalized perception, so that we can have the opportunities, so that we can help what Tom's trying to do to bring commerce here. You know, Matthew came and completely helped revitalize our downtown. We've been wanting to do that forever. This action, though, it's not about that. And if you look at all of the whereas statements, we don't talk about political perspectives. I don't even talk about how disgraceful and disgusting some of your comments were, because that's not germane to what we're doing. You may not physically touch another person. Safe hands. I'm a mom. I say it all day long. Safe hands, right? I cannot sit here and I cannot condone that type of behavior. And this is about, to me, this item of censure, it's about setting an expectation for anyone else out there who wants to run for this council. There's an expectation of a code of conduct that we treat each other with respect, and we try very hard. I don't know if you guys even watch meetings, but we don't all agree on a lot of things, but we're very respectful, because that is what civil discourse, right? That's what this is about. It's about creating an environment where everyone is welcome to have an opinion. We take it really seriously. Dan takes it really seriously. Paul takes it really seriously. Holly takes it really seriously. I take it really seriously. I take it very personally. And my expectation is that any future peer, whether I'm elected here or not, that they know that this council is a place where we take our job and the trust that you place in us very seriously. And so I feel compelled that there has to be severe action and statement so that anyone who's watching knows there's a certain way that Lincoln acts, and this ain't it. It's not okay.
Thank you. So I'm going to make my comments and then we can discuss Dan's, yeah. Okay, that's fine, but hold on, Bill. You're gonna put that flyer away because that has no business here. You're gonna put it away. Thank you. I don't even know why you have it here. Okay, I'm gonna give you. Well, there's no reason to have it out on the dais, okay? So go ahead and make your last comments and then I'm gonna wrap up.
Okay. I never said Matthew Oliver has no rights. I never said he should be deported. In fact, it was told to me that I was not a real American because I didn't support his father's, by Matthew Oliver's son, because I did not support his father's view on masking and vaccination. I really feel that people should get vaccinated. I think this whole thing would be all over if most people got vaccinated. I don't believe it should be mandatory. No one should hold you down. But, you know, and I asked him, was he vaccinated? But all he had to do was say yes, no, or it's none of your business. But he didn't do that. He said it was part of his sealed medical records. I don't hate brown people. I don't hate Poles. I'm half Polish myself. I never slapped Oliver. I demonstrated. He ran over to Sheriff Jones and said he was assaulted. And I said, no, that's not an assault. This would be an assault. And I didn't touch him. Okay. As for touching, yes, he came over to me to begin with. He held his phone out like this, came over to me and started rubbing up against me and pushing his phone in my face. Okay, I'm the one that's being canceled and I'm the one that's the victim. I did look at people, okay, as far as that's concerned. Is this political retribution? I don't know. I mean, you three of you, 1, 2, 3, harangued me about not supporting Paul Joyner. I said, no, I'm going to support who I want. And I did. I will support whoever I want. No, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Okay, it's my turn right now. I'm speaking. Okay. Yes, you did. You three got me in a corner and said, no, you have to support Paul Joyner. I said, well, no, I mean, I support someone else. I'm sorry.
We didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
We didn't.
No, I'm
say
sorry, you did.
What does that have to do with anything?
It has a lot. It's political retribution.
Yeah, let's keep order so we can wrap this up.
It's political retribution and you know it. Sorry about that, but that's the way it is.
Okay, is that it?
Yes, that's
Okay,
it.
all right, thank you. Okay. I'm gonna take a breath. So what I want to say is that this contemplation of censure and removal of appointments, as Alyssa said, is not something that we take lightly. This has been very painful. And as Paul said, I've spent a great deal of time answering emails, doing interviews, answering phone calls on both sides. And yes, to your question and to the audience question, I watched that video several times. And I have to say, one of the things that I hate the most is being gaslighted and to be told that I didn't see what I saw and what over 120,000 people saw. So I reject that. And I'm really shocked. I respect everybody's opinion, but I am really shocked that the focus here is on our reaction, not on what actually happened in the video. And to me, that is super political. And I don't like that. When Mr. Lordson, when Councilmember Lordson came onto the council in 2020, all four of us welcomed him. We were professional. We were even friendly. Like, as Alyssa says, we get along fine. Yes, we disagree with him on many issues, but we get along fine. And I want to make really clear that this has got nothing to do with politics or partisan. And I reject that accusation wholeheartedly. And frankly, it makes me really angry because we work really hard to be nonpartisan. And I feel like that gets getting thrown at us all the time. And again, gaslighting. We're not partisan. We work really hard to leave our personal opinions, our political stands aside, because when we come here to do the business of the city, we come here to do the business of the city. And that has worked really well until right now. But what matters most right now is that we keep the public's trust. This council, as Alyssa said, have been working really, really hard to make sure that Lincoln has everything our residents deserve. And Councilmember Lauritsen's actions on April 25th eroded that public trust. Whether he likes it or not, we are held to a higher standard than other people. And what I have said all along is Matthew is Matthew. Matthew is a provocateur. Matthew is an entrepreneur. Matthew videotapes everything. Matthew is Matthew. But you are an elected official on this council. And people look to us to behave a certain way, regardless if someone is acting in official capacity or not. Bill's actions changed the perception of what Lincoln is, and his behavior set us back, and we absolutely cannot condone that behavior. I've received many comments, I'm sure as my colleagues have, claiming that it's not necessary to remove him from his appointed boards and commissions, and I'm willing to discuss leaving him on the city ones. I told you I'm really fine with that. But I disagree with leaving him on the regional boards because, Bill, your actions jeopardize our reputation, not just in Placer County, but statewide. You have no idea, people we have heard from, how far this has reached. And it is humiliating and it's embarrassing. And we have worked really hard to have a voice on these committees and on these boards, as well as earn the respect of our colleagues that sit on these regional boards. And we cannot afford to lose our voice on these boards and committees. With our regional partners were in the room when this happened. They were blowing up our phones as it was happening. They have expressed their shock and unwillingness to be subjected to this type of behavior, and they are extremely uncomfortable. And even if the four of us sat here and we wanted to say, okay, you know what, let bygones be bygones, it was a mistake. And what I've heard so many times is just men behaving badly. Nope. Even if we said that, what kind of statement would that say to our regional partners if we just said, okay, Bill, it's fine? No, we lose all credibility with the people that we work with. And not only do we need to maintain the trust of our residents, but we have to keep a good working relationship with these regional and state partners. And as Councilmember Joyner said, all of us represent all of Lincoln when we sit on these boards. So even if we remove him, you're still going to be represented. When we go to whatever committee that we're on or regional board, we're not there representing our district. We're there representing all of you. So nobody in this town will be disenfranchised. And the other very important thing that must be taken into account is that this city is actively recruiting for key positions. We have several holes to fill in order to get our staffing levels up to an acceptable place so we can do the business of the city. And Sean has been working really hard, recruiting, trying to get good quality candidates to come here. And this incident has damaged our reputation and quite possibly hindered our ability to obtain quality applicants. And that is not acceptable. This is an extremely serious there's extremely serious consequences to outrageous behavior. And unfortunately, your behavior just exacerbated our situation of trying to get quality people. So I agree, we don't have any choice. We have to repair the damage. We had to move quickly, and I'm going to be supporting this resolution 100%, possibly with some of the changes.
Madam Mayor, can I respond to the counter motion?
Yep.
For me, I'm 100% fine with the amendments that you made to the third whereas paragraph. I am not very open to maintaining any positions on city or regional boards. And let me tell you why, because it's a privilege, not a right.
Exactly.
It is a right that he sits here because he was elected. He has a right to a vote. He does not have a right to represent the city. And I have heard nothing out of you, Bill, that acknowledges the situation that you're in, the harm that you created to the council, to the city, to the community. I don't know why we reward that. If he wants to change his behavior and bring forward an item at some point asking for some removal of the censure, I might be open to that, but I feel like that has to be earned. I don't think that it's a right. I think it's a privilege, and I think you lose privileges when you don't rise up to the job. I'm a no on that.
That's fine. Paul, how do you feel about leaving him on? I think it's library and he's an alternate for a couple things. I mean, I'm fine either way.
Yeah, the primary reason for, one of the primary reasons for removing him from regional boards is that we are the singular representative of the council at those boards. We are guided by the policies and direction of this council. I do not have confidence that Mr. Lawrenson is guided by those same directions and policies and beliefs. On the city level, we generally have two council representatives. So there is someone who can correct should there be a misstatement made along the way. And so I touched on this as well, just trying to sort through what the right thing is. And I agree with you that down the road, I would likely be open to, if conditions were correct, to a reconsideration of the decision we make tonight. I'm not, but I haven't seen anything, anything tonight that would cause me to want to give that tiny bit of leniency or grace on this. So what I would suggest, so I don't think I would support leaving him on the city committees either. Let me tell you that we had a city committee this morning. Mr. Lawrenson had no action yet taken against him, was invited to attend the PCWA city. Yes. Who told you not to? No action had been taken yet, Bill. No action had been taken. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
At any rate, he was not in attendance. What I think I would suggest, Dan wants to reword a couple of these lines. It's so these two third and fourth whereases. Whereas in the video, Councilmember Lawrenson was wearing a pin with the seal of the city of Lincoln, thus implying he was speaking on behalf of the council as a whole when he was not. And whereas a city seat is an elected nonpartisan position, and while council members retain their individual freedom of speech and assembly, there is a limit to the extent they represent or imply their speech is on behalf of the entire legislative body. I would say that we strike those both in their entirety, because there is not a chance in hell that anybody could have perceived Bill's actions as being those condoned or supported in any way, shape, or form by this council.
Mayor, can I counter that? I know I'm the person who always does.
Yes, we can, and you are more than welcome to, but I would really like to wrap this up so we can get to the rest of the meeting.
I was just going to propose that we keep it because I think that that is why this is so important. I think that it sets on the record that the perception was that he was there on our behalf and that his actions were made as a sitting council member on our behalf. And that's why I'm so upset about it. Do you know what I mean? I get your point, but I think the perception of the public is that that's exactly what he was there doing. Yeah. It's unacceptable.
So although I appreciate your proposal, Dan, I say we just leave it the way it is, that we leave both city committees and regional boards on there and remove him from everything. And then we're willing to revisit it later if we see some change. I think it's all understood that he was there and he was perceived to be representing the city. And so I don't think we need to really.
I still want to separate regional from city. There's a set of dynamics that happen in the regional meetings. A level of representation that's maybe a little bit higher, but more than that, there's a lot more stress and adversarial discussions. And I'm afraid of.
Can we address that at a future date where when he wants to bring an item forward, asking for redress of it, that we separate out city committees
Yeah,
from regional
that's what I
committees?
We can
So
do
we
that
don't
later.
need to belabor tonight, but in the
No.
future,
I just want to
we
be on
handle them
record.
separately. Does that work
I
for
want to
you?
be on-
Perfect.
That would work for me.
Okay, then I am ready to accept a motion to adopt resolution 2022-113 of censure of Councilmember William Lordson and removal from all his committees and.
Leaving whereas 3 the same, the way it is.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it the same.
Okay.
Yep, we're gonna leave it the same. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Need a second.
Happy to second. Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
No.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Okay. All right. Okay, moving on. Item 10B, adopt resolution 2022-114, approving the reclassification of the finance department's payroll technician position to a senior payroll technician and adoption of the
Why don't we
salary
take a
schedule.
Break, 5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, sure.
Is it all right if we step outside?
Sure.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
Really appreciate
This one's open.
All right, start this again. Item 10B, adopt resolution 2022-114, approving the reclassification of the Finance Department's payroll technician position to a senior payroll technician and adoption of the salary schedule for the proposed senior payroll technician classification. And Nita Racker, our finance director, is going to give a staff report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to present this reclassification. The Finance Department is responsible for the city's payroll functions, and those functions are currently performed by one position in the classification of payroll technician. A portion of these functions require a high degree of responsibility, knowledge, and experience typically assigned to a senior level pay classification. These duties include the interpretation and application of federal, state, and organizational rules, regulations, and procedures requiring sustained, frequent, and intensive use of financial, statistical, and numerical data and information. We've asked Human Resource to complete a classification request to determine the appropriate classification for the position and the work needed. And they came back with a senior payroll technician. So we are before you this evening asking for that reclassification to occur. It does include the promotion of the person currently in the position of payroll technician.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem Joyner.
Couple of questions. Naturally. Will the new system, two questions. Will the new system have a payroll system? Or will the new system support an external payroll system?
The new system will include a payroll module. If we chose not to use that module, we're using it, but if we chose not to, it would support an external system.
I'm sorry.
If we chose not to use that module, it would also support an external system, but we are using the payroll module in Tyler.
Okay. So we have never looked at really outsourcing payroll.
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I think Dan would outsource the entire.
Even when you outsource payroll, because I have done that in previous organizations, there is still an impact and work to be done by city staff. You know, there's still payroll classifications and adjustments that have to happen by HR department. So while it would shift some burden of work, moving from our completely paper and manual process to a computerized system will change the impact.
I was thinking more along the regulatory, keeping abreast of the regulatory requirements and the tax requirements and so on.
Our payroll technician does cooperate with our other neighboring agencies, as well as belong to associations and get information in newsletters to keep abreast of that information as best as possible.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
Okay. Councilmember Lordson, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Councilmember Sahai? No, I don't. Okay. I don't either. So is there anybody on Zoom who has public comment for this?
I don't see any hands raised on
Okay.
Zoom.
And is there anybody still left downstairs? I'm guessing not. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, there's. And then is there anybody in the council chambers here that would like to make a public comment on this item? No? Okay. Well, I think this is good and it shows progress and I'm really excited to approve this. So I'll take a motion to approve a resolution 2022-114.
So moved.
Second. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai,
Yes.
Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, item 10C, adopt resolution 2022-115, approving amendments to the salary schedule for seasonal classifications. And Justin Orton will give us a staff report, our human resource analyst.
Hello, Mayor, council members. The item before you is a request to adopt a resolution to approve the revised salary schedule for our seasonal classes. As a result of the increases to the California minimum wage effective January 1, 2022 to $15 per hour, many of the entry-level hourly rates of these classifications have fallen below the minimum wage. So to comply with this, it is necessary to update our pay schedule for these positions. For the current fiscal year 21-22, the increase will be absorbed in the current budget, and moving forward, the estimated annual impact will be $9,810 to the general fund. This concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Any questions or comments on this side? Questions or comments?
The only comment I have is I just want to thank staff. I feel like the staff reports just keep getting better and better. And I sometimes feel bad that I don't have questions, but you guys have done a really good job of making sure I have what I need in advance. And so thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Agreed. Okay, any public comment on Zoom?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Okay, any public comment in the council chambers here? No? Okay, then I am ready to receive a motion to adopt resolution 2022-115.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Joyner,
Yes.
Councilmember Silhai, Councilmember Carlskent,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauritsen,
Yes.
and Mayor Andriotta.
Yes. Okay, so that concludes all of our regular business, and I just want to thank staff for sitting through all of the public comments from earlier and hanging in there with us. So that brings us to item 11, council initiated business. Do any of my colleagues have any business to bring forward?
I do, Madam Mayor. I do. Sorry, it'll be quick. It will be quick. In light of what we have all just gone through. A number of years ago, I came back from a League of Cities conference. Having been enlightened to something called policy governance, which lays out the very specific roles, not only of council members, but of staff, of the role of a city manager, the roles of council as policymakers, not administrators, setting up clear boundaries between all of those, clearly defining a code of conduct for the council. I got agreement from my fellow council members at the time. And quite frankly, we brought that forward. I brought that forward because we had great division and inappropriate behavior on the council at the time. And I thought that might give us some something to pull things back into a more proper alignment. I bring that up because we went through about a 1-year process with a facilitator, softening and softening and softening the language within that until such time as it was acceptable to all 5 council members. It was put on the agenda and it was not approved. It was made as a guideline. I would like to suggest that we bring that or something very similar to that back and agendize that and see where that takes us. Policy governance at the time seemed a very wise path.
If I can add a parenthetical to that. The problems that you were talking about were internal to the city and council operations, not external.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that it didn't affect the rest of the
Can we
world.
workshop
No,
that?
not at all.
We can workshop it.
definitely
I would
workshop
love to workshop that.
Because I actually I agree with you. I was going to ask to bring that back so
Yeah.
we could have some
we-
very clear guidelines.
Because
for
we
code
do
of
have one, but it's voluntary. So
It's voluntary
Yeah.
and
And
it
it-
was
and it's toothless.
yeah, it's
watered down
toothless. Yeah.
dramatically.
Let's workshop that. I'd agree with that.
We'll add it to your list of 72 workshop items.
Can we like bump it up though? Above
Put it-
like, I don't know, the 150 that we've already thrown your way?
We'll put it up there, yeah.
All right. Do you guys have any council initiated business?
Initiative, no.
No, okay. So that leaves us with information items. I do want to share a little bit about Cap to Cap that Alyssa and I went to, but do you guys have any information before I do that?
No.
Councilman Lordson, do you have any information items?
None.
Yeah, I'll just real quick report out on my actions at Cap to Cap and then you can for yours. So the mayor and I were able to go back to DC on the capital to capital trip, which is a 6-county, business partner and elected official trip. I participated on the air quality team as I chair the air pollution control board as well on behalf of the city. And it was really impactful, actually. I felt like for me to be there. And in addition with my colleague Trinity, who's the mayor of Colfax, sometimes the Sacramento narrative really fills the room and our needs are not their needs. And particularly as there's a lot of funding for infrastructure and zero emission vehicles, and we're looking at greenhouse gas emissions and all of these sorts of things and, new technologies and innovations and investments. It was really impactful, I felt like, to be able to be a voice in the room to state why some of those solutions don't work for our communities and to advocate on behalf of things that would work for our communities. And so I was glad I was able to be there.
Yeah, me too. And I'll just add, I felt like I'm on the public safety team and I'm actually, a small player in that because I'm not in law enforcement or a fire service. But we work with SAC PD and SAC Metro Fire and all different, across the 6 counties and Roseville. And so I learned a lot, but it was really beneficial because I was able to sit with legislators or their staffs and talk about there's 3 main asks as far as the legislation requests for the drones, and then also for training and ongoing funding, like the SAFER grant. And so I was able to, within the context of the larger, like Alyssa said, the Sacramento region requests, I was able to talk about our situation and say, we didn't get the SAFER grant last year and we beefed up our application and we felt really good about it and we didn't get it again. And when you look at people who did get it, we're befuddled and I want to know why and what does it take and we need help. And so I felt my time there was used very judiciously as well. And also just the connections with several people in the region that I think will be fruitful in the future. So it was a really great trip. We managed to have a little bit of fun after hours too, after the work was done. But I thought it was very beneficial to be there.
So did you get any significant responses to your question?
What I got was concern and understanding, but I'm gonna follow up. I have to circle back around. So I didn't get any real responses other than we totally understand that and we'll look into it. So I'm gonna follow back up with that. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Hey, thank you staff for hanging there. Really appreciate it. And we are adjourned.
Just blew everything away.